Here's the next project that I've been not confronting. I was going to paint this white because it obviously was white before, but front's got to be black, and I think it'll be a real problem to completely strip all this stuff down to white. So I got to pull all the wires out, get everything all cleaned up, and then paint this black. I'm going to try that rust paint, which worked good on some of this other stuff. So might as well get to it. By the way, here's the hood. I used Bondos in all of the seals there. There was some special glue, but I didn't mess with that. I just bonded it all up. It's plenty solid, nothing moves. But I gotta strip everything out of here, brake lines, all the wires. Not that bad. It's gonna have some trouble getting some of them little rusted bolts out, and we'll give it a go and see what happens. That wasn't too bad. It got the harness out pretty much in one piece, and I don't want to mess with the heater hoses, but I pretty much got everything out of here. I don't know what that is, probably some kind of a choke cable or something. I decided not to take the brake lines off. It's just too much trouble to try to get all that just for a good looking brake line. They're rusty. I've painted black anyway. So next thing I'm gonna do is kind of wire brush it. I got some kind of a brake right here. It looks like something's weird with that shock tower. This one looks different inside. Looks like somebody might have tried to do something there. I'm going to take that off and see what I can find what's wrong with that. Maybe I might weld that before I go to painting on this thing. Not exactly sure what's going on, but it looks like it was rusted out right there, and this is just a 1/4-inch piece of steel that somebody very unprofessionally cut out with a torch, and it looks like the whole thing was rusted. So what they did was just put a big old plate in there. I don't know what this little piece is right in here. Looks like that might have been part of the thing that holds the spring, but it's a pretty nasty job. And this one, you can see the spring sits in there. Back to my rusted out spring perch. Here's a plate that goes on the spring. It's pretty obvious how it goes. It looks like the purpose of this thing is to spread the load out over the top of this shock tower. He just had a big old bracket in it. Whoever did this just put this chunk of steel in there and bored some holes in it, which I suppose was pretty workable, but it didn't allow the spring to center at all. So what I'm going to try to do is see if I can't figure out a way to cut this out cleanly and kind of weld it up like it's supposed to be. Take some thinking on that one. I pulled the fiddler off here. I probably should have done this before I did all the rest of this work, but this is actually a pretty thick piece. It's almost as thick as a frame. So I think probably what I can do is put an angle iron right across here welded along this side, and it's going to be pressing up anyway, and then trim it up for that for this piece in here where it's rusted out. So if the angle iron goes from here to here, and then I can figure out where to bolt it, I might just weld a little piece in here as well, so I can clean this bolt hole up. We'll see. I'll clean it up, bar brush it, and then see what it looks like. Looking at this some more, this is the spring cover here. It goes in here. Now apparently this frame had to be humped up a little bit right in there. These two places where it's broke out for the bolt to go in the shock tower. If I weld a piece of plate in there, I got a piece of plate cut, but you can see what's going to happen there. I'm really not fixing my holes, and I've got a kind of a hump here on the where it was pounded up from the bolt holes. Same thing you can see on that back side there. It's not really flat there. It needs to be up for a bolt. So it wasn't really the shock that tore out, I mean the spring that tore out anything. It was the shock itself. Just tore this metal off the top because this plate is transferring all the force to everything else. So that gives me another problem. I think maybe what I'll do is just weld a bolt to this plate. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do here to do this right. The more I looked at this, is the more I could see the only way to really do it right was to weld the bolts to that plate and then try to reinforce it here. Nothing really hooks to that except for the shock, but I think I can weld this up pretty good with bolts in it, and then I won't have to worry about it. It'll look fine, and it'll be stronger than the original. Here it is all welded up before grinding. I welded the torn places, and I also welded it in here. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be as strong as it ever was. I've cleaned up, put a couple more bolts in it now. This thing here is going to have to go in there somewhere. I'll center that. See about welding a couple more bolts in. I think we'll be in business. Now here it is, pretty much done. Everything's in there getting solid. Bracket goes pretty good. May not be the prettiest job in the world, but strong and centered in the hole, which is a lot better than it was before. Maybe I'll, looking at that other one over there, nice and smooth around there. Maybe I'll just throw a little Bondo on it, grind it down, throw a little Bondo on it, just smooth it out around the outside edges there where somebody's going to see it. I'm not going to get too carried away here, but there is, you know, it's pretty obvious that there's quite a bit of welding and stuff in there, so it won't hurt none to clean it up some. I decided not to mess with that. I just cleaned it up with a grinder, hit it with a well spatter tool. For the most part it looks alright. I'll just squirt a little paint on it and call it quits. I squirted it up a little here. Looked quite a bit better. Bracket goes on it good. I kind of cleaned this up a bit under here. Put a little paint on it. Some of that anti-rust paint. It don't look too bad. So now I'm gonna see if I can't put that control arm and spring and everything back in.